right, today we're talking about how to lie with statistics. So let me introduce you to the St. Louis Fed, their Twitter page, or X, the app formerly known as Twitter. And this is the St. Louis Fed verified account, official Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis account. We share economic data and insights. So one day decided to share economic data and insights about military expenditure. As you can see here, and it says an analysis looks at how defense spending among the nations with the highest expenditures has changed since 1992 and what may have driven the changes. All right, so let's get a closer look at this actually. All right, so there's a bigger, larger version of this chart. And as you can see here, we have India and Saudi Arabia. Down here at the bottom, India is the pink dotted line, and Saudi Arabia, the green dashes. You can see them down here. And then on the left-hand side up here, you have China, Russia, and the UK. So you have the UK is the blue dotted line, Russia is the red dash line, and with military expenditure, which was much lower than I expected, actually. And then you have China here, which is this long, solid red line that is going all the way up here. So looking at this, right, there's something that should stand out to you. See that right there? So what is it that I'm talking about? All right. So if you look at each country except for the United States, you look at China, Russia, UK, India, and Saudi Arabia, they are all on the left axis. The United States is on the right axis. Why you would put in the same graph makes no sense to me. It looks like they wanted to mislead people. I feel like that's the intent. That's the only way you, that's the only reason why you would format this in this way. So check this out. It got community noted. Says while this information is correct, the graph is poorly formatted with a separate y-axis on the right-hand side, which only applies to the U.S. budget. This may make it seem like China has a higher military budget than the U.S. when the reverse is true. And that conclusion is what they wanted you to take away from this. Why else would you format the graph this way? So this is how it should look. If you put the whole entire data set on its own axes, why would you change the axes for the United States only and overlay it on all the other countries just to give it just to make it look like China is spending more than you are? This is how you lie with statistics. Most people, just like most people, a lot of people, no, I won't say most people, but just like a lot of people just read the headline and don't read the article, the sensational headline, but then you read the article and it's just like, okay, this is not what you made it out to be with the headline. Happens all the time. They know people are just going to look at the graph and they're just going to look to the right hand side. And if you look on the right hand side, you're going to see, all right, so you see China's line stop and it's over 900, whereas the US is like 775, right? So most people are going to look at it that way. Probably not going to check and see which axes, right? This was formatted this way on purpose to be misleading, in my opinion. So here they go are again, side by side. And the misleading formatting of this chart on the left-hand side, which is what the St. Louis Fed published on his Twitter account. And this is what it really should look like if everything was on the same axis. Right? And people were calling this out. So you have Dr. Anel Schellin. Wow, St. Louis Fed published the graph on the left with two different y-axes to make it look as if China's defense spending outpaced the U.S. The graph on the right shows how the spending actually compares with U.S. defense spending dwarfing all others. Exactly. And I think I'll just throw this out here. Just a reminder. I pulled this from the Washington Post article, but it's from the International Institute of Security Studies. And it's military balance 2024. NATO accounts for over half of record 2.2 trillion military spending. and this is globally. So NATO member states, led by the United States, accounted for more than half of planned defense spending globally last year. So just keep that in mind when, telling you that, somebody else is like this big threat. So, you know, with military spending like this, it's pretty obvious that, like Joseph Burrell said, that the garden needs to go trim the jungle, or what he really meant was the garden goes and pillages the jungle. But, anyways, this is how you lie with statistics. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time.